皆様、お待たせいたしました。
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for waiting. International Canal Forum Nagoya 2020. Thank you for your attendance. The last program of today begins now. Open Discussion 2, JAPIC, Japan Project Industry Council Symposium, Nakagawa Canal Waterfront Area Revitalization Project begins. Now I give the floor to the members of JAPIC. Thank you very much. We would like to begin the symposium. Before we begin the program, we would like to announce to the viewers, if you have any questions, please post your questions to the chat box. Because of the limitation of time, we might not be able to take all the questions, but we will respond to you later on from the Secretariat. So please comment and add your contact in the chat as well. Thank you very much for waiting. This is a symposium hosted by Japan Project Industry Council. Thank you very much for joining us today. We now begin the symposium by JAPIC, Nakagawa Canal Waterfront Area Revitalization Project. I'm Miura from JAPIC. I will be serving as a moderator today. Now, I would like to ask Marukawa-san from JAPIC to say a few words, and he will also give the overview of today's session.
皆様こんにちは。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have a 2-hour symposium starting now. And I am Maruka from JAPIC, the Japan Project Industry Council. And I understand that we have many people attending. Thank you very much for your kind attendance. JAPIC, we have people from electricity, construction, steel, banks, many different companies from many different industries. And this is a cross-industry private sector organization. We want to create the basis for an affluent society so that we can look at an infrastructure project looking at 20 years and 30 years ahead. Some of the specifics is the Aqua Line along on the Tokyo Bay is one of them, and also revitalization of local communities. Our Vice Chair, Hideo Nakamura, has led the way, looking at Hokkaido all the way down to Okinawa. We have focused on 15 different projects, large-scale projects, to make specific proposals. And in the Aichi Chukyo district, we are focusing on the Nakagawa Canal. Already, Nagoya City and our council has companies in the Nagoya area, and they are creating the Chubu committee, and also the Nakagawa Canal is involved in making proposals. And for several years, we have been going to Europe to learn about the state-of-the-art infrastructures and carbon neutral DX. We have these new trends, and also we have to consider a post-corona era. And based on that, for this International Canal Forum, we have been honing our proposals from JAPIC. We have Mr. Horiba, the Vice Mayor of Nagoya City, and we are connected together through the web. We have many people who are knowledgeable about the Nakagawa Canal among the panelists, and we look forward to hearing the presentations. And thank you very much for attending online. We would like to hear from you so that we can make our proposal a very feasible one, so that we can revitalize as soon as possible the Nakagawa Canal waterfront area. And we also want to connect and collaborate together with the people in Nagoya. This will be a long 2-hour symposium, but we hope that you enjoy and we can have a fruitful discussion. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. We now would like to begin the presentations. First, we have Hayashi-san. And Hayashi-san will be talking about the living, residing, leisure, and culture and art in the waterfront. And then we will have Horiba-san, the Vice Mayor, to talk about the revitalization of Nakagawa Canal. Now, Professor Hayashi, the floor is yours. Please give me one moment. I hope you can hear me. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. In JAPIC project, I have been involved in the study of European countries. And for that reason, I am the first one to make a presentation today. Revitalization of Nakagawa Canal is the theme of my presentation. Culture, art, living, working, and leisure. These things should crisscross with one another in the waterfront area. And in revitalizing Nakagawa Canal, we have to think about what kind of times Japan is positioned and how Nakagawa Canal is positioned. We have to understand that. My understanding is that Japan is aging, and also I'm sure you've heard the term work-life balance, but there is a unbalance there. And every year, the GDP growth rate target is set by each country in the 20th century. But in the era of 21st century, we have to shift from people for economy to economy for people. The economy should be utilized for the lives and livelihood. And it's not monotonous. We have various generations and many people come together, and living places and working places should be materialized at the same time to achieve work-life balance. And I believe that we are shifting toward a society that accepts various and diverse values. And second is that there are climate crises, natural disasters, and also pandemic, just like the one we are in with COVID-19 and social division. These are the vulnerabilities that we are facing. How can we flexibly make ourselves strong against these vulnerabilities? We need to be resilient in the society. We have to avoid the over-accumulation or overpopulation, and we must form a multi-layered communities. So these spaces and infrastructures that accept these aspects, how should the society be changed? The society needs to be safe, environmentally friendly, and must provide a place to rest. We need the space and mobility that can accept diverse values in that way. So how about Nagoya? Nagoya has wide streets, and in the world, Nagoya has the biggest areas with zoning. The Frankfurt mayor started to exchange documents with Nagoya, and Nagoya has started zoning, and Nagoya has many underground shopping areas. But actually, the city is very inorganic, and people, especially elderly people, cannot rest. So affluent and rich waterfront space is required. And secondly, we do have areas with historical values, such as the museums, the streets, and castles, but they are scattered. So we need an axis that can connect our spirit. And the third is about Nagoya Station. Central Towers is Japan's top station, and the concourse, compared to other cities, is quite advanced. But do people know that? Well, we have Central Airport and Maglev will be developed. We have Shinkansen bullet train, Japan Railway, and private railway stations. And Nagoya is one of the top in transport hubs in the world, but people are not aware of that. The Tokyo Station is not connected to an airport, and Shinagawa Station in Tokyo is not a hub of the transport in the area. So we have to use this advantage. We need to put more high functions, advanced functions to interchanges, and must renovate the station front. I talked about the era of the 21st century, but we can learn from some example. First is about Western Germany after Munich Olympics. They started economic development 20 years before Japan started, and the incomes increased. The income accumulation has become large, and at the same time, depopulation was happening. So people's awareness changed. The northern and central part of Germany was the central area, but then the west and east were divided, and the starting 1960s, the central area, the industrial area was polluted. So the working population went to Bayern in southern area, and people started to move to southern part of the country, and companies needed to follow that trend in order to make profit. That was what was happening about 50 years ago. So how about Japan? The transition and changes occurred later in Japan. The second example is Mitterrand projects, 7 projects in Paris. The National Library was established, and amidst that, Grand Arche was also established. And Mitterrand monument Mitterrand preferred and valued monument, but at the same time, it created new value to touch people's mind and spirit. And we have to think about how to achieve that in Nagoya. You can see that we have the triumphal arch at the center, and then we have Louvre Museum, and it's about 4-kilometer distance. And at the back, we have Grand Arche in La Défense. Previously, it was considered to be a concrete jungle, and people didn't like this area, but the Grand Arche was created. And if you look at this gate from afar, it's quite nice, and behind the triumphal arch, you can still see Grand Arche. So because of that, the La Défense area was seen differently thanks to Grand Arche. And the third example is the geopolitical corridor and decarbonization. This is Alp Transit Plan and Channel Tunnel case. Trans-European Network for Transport. After the establishment of EU, all across Europe, low-carbon railway was put in place. So this is a modern network that was created. So you can see that about 500-kilometer distance from London to Paris, between 10T, that is 10T, and also Alp Transit. This country is not in EU, but there is a development area or development axis called Blue Banana. Banana that is not mature. This area was created from Paris to Milan. This area is spreading, but Germany also involved in the plan. About 500 billion to 1 trillion was spent to create their own tunnel. So mature society is mindful and conscious about environment, but the competitiveness goes down after income goes up to a certain level. So how to maintain the competitiveness is the key question. So today we are talking about Waterfront Revitalization project, but what I'd like to talk about today is Malm in Sweden and Hamburg, Belrin. My study team did not go to London and Leeds, but I will also introduce their cases. So usually, the cases involve the revitalization of declined areas. Malmö has a shipping yard, and they try to redevelop this area in consideration of the environment. So this is an integrated concept, not a standalone one. Hamburg is a logistics hub, but they thought about disaster risk reduction in commerce and culture. Berlin, environment, new capital and wide area network. In Leeds, environment, factory and warehouse revitalization. First, Malmö. Has a tunnel and bridge. And as a result of that connection, because of the Oresund Bridge, the Copenhagen and Malmö formed a new economic zone, and every day about 100,000 people go across the bridge. In Germany, there are architecture expos. They took that expo as an opportunity to create a unique city, and they are touting sustainability as an important value. And Turning Torso is located, they have the garbage vacuum collection system. These IT and bio companies are coming together to use their technologies. And next, Hamburg. Hamburg is in one of the development axes. Hafen City is the name of the project. It's a large-scale project that they are undertaking. About 1.8 million are in Hamburg, so it's about 7 times bigger than Nagoya City, and 2.5 million people are also residing in the surrounding area. In Nagoya, we actually have 2.3 million, and if we include the suburbs, there are more than 10 million people. So in case of Hamburg, they invested more than 100 billion yen worth of investment. So it's a large-scale investment, and they had a declining harbor area. So Berlin is actually behind this project. Berlin was the center of economic development, but Berlin has about 150 to 200 kilometers away from Hamburg. It's the distance between Osaka and Kyoto, but Germany was divided in west and east, so the city was declined. So in south, Antwerp and other cities in south started emerging, and Hamburg needed to redevelop its city. This is the canal in Hafen City, and Elb Philharmony is now located, and other facilities are located on the first floor. They have the wall to prevent the water from coming in, and they always have a sustainable transportation options. And in Germany, they have Transport Alliance. The railway, both private and public railways, are having the same fare system. And Hamburg started that system. And it also includes the ship fares as well. You can see how people are very close to waterfront. And Berlin is along the river, and logistic channel is here. So now we are looking at Berlin. Berlin became the new capital after the west and east were merged, and the parliament building is located there. Many buildings such as Sony building is also located there. Looking at the map, we can see Berlin Central Station. It didn't exist in the past. Different stations were scattered, but they were merged and integrated into Berlin Central Station. And S-Bahn is like a circular road, main road. And as you can see at the top, this is the S-Bahn railway train, and below that, there are high-speed railway, ICE. The Trans-European Network is centered in Germany. Mitterrand and Berlin were competing, and Mitterrand created Paris Circular Network. Not only this station, but around the station, there is a Spree canal. So on the right-hand side, the parliament building is located, and that's where the waterway was created. And they can go to different places on the waterway. Next, moving on to Leeds in the UK. It's 300 kilometers away from London to the north. And Leeds has the warehousing district that was declining in inner city. You can see before and after pictures. The industrial area was made redeveloped, and at the time Thatcher was there, I was a visiting professor there, and I was staying there for about a year. All these warehouses had the plywood walls, and unemployment rate in West Yorkshire was 30%, and those below 25 years old, the unemployment rate was 60%. So it was at the bottom, but Thatcher did a good job from the late 1980s to 1990s to grow economy, and this area was revitalized. Dopland has a very famous revitalization project, and this area, the warehouse district, was changed into restaurants, residences, and offices. It's quite similar to Nakagawa Canal. The National Railway, former National Railway lease station is located close by, and they created Canals and River Trust. It is sometimes called partnership or trust, but this trust is working together with Lee's city office, and I think we can learn from their effort. Next, on London, from Paris through Channel Tunnel, Eurostar is running in London. From Paris, it's about 300 kilometers, and about 100 kilometers the railway is connected, but the railway is quite bumpy and it's slow. But now it's become better. And looking at the UK, you first start from Paris Nord station, and then through the Channel Tunnel, you can go to St. Pancras station. And at King Cross, St. Pancras is located. That is a terminal. Originally, there was a Waterloo station. What's interesting is that developers, the railway station and DHL, established King's Cross Central Limited Partnership to drive the development forward. So originally, this was a logistic hub, but it was declined. And this area has Docklands warehouse. St. Martin in the Field is a very famous organization, and they started practicing their performance in the warehouse in the 1980s. And close by, there is a canal called Regent Canal. So looking at these examples, to revitalize Nakagawa Canal, what can we do? What can we learn from them? The multi-valley infrastructure should be able to pass down the city to the next generation. We have been hard hit economically, but declining cities should be switched into amenity, as we saw in Lee's example, and we should first prioritize spatial structure, and also using development access, as Berlin did. We should create the major transportation network, and infrastructure integration is also important. We have to incorporate the disaster risk reduction perspective, and public-private trust should be established because other cities are doing that. That is the forefront of the effort. So what should we do in Nakagawa Canal? As I showed you at the beginning, this is what's happening in Japan. So for this, we need to create a spatial function, and how to create that is a question. We need to accept diverse values. And the second is that the society is changing because of natural disasters, climate crisis, and pandemic, like COVID-19 pandemic. And the society is not matching to the needs of the society. So we need to create a society that can cater to that. And so culture, art, living, business, recreation, and tourism, including inbound tourism and tourists from other areas of Japan, all included. The waterfront area should provide functions to all of these areas. And also we need three infrastructures. First, the corridor, quiet and calm corridor using water and green. And the second is the group of warehouses that can show the memories of the land. And the third is mobility network connecting land and water. If people want to walk, people can walk, and people can also use the water transport. The three social targets include carbon neutral, post-COVID-19 new normal, and quality of life. We have to consider all of these goals. So simply put, this is what we need to achieve. About 20-some years ago, I went to Amsterdam for a conference, and I was on a ship. And I was sightseeing. You can see an apartment, and then there is a front yard and wooden boat and all the amenity. The dog seems very happy in the photo. So this is exactly what we need to achieve. In closing, along the canal, if we can create the infrastructure and environment, then we, just like the 8 kilometers between Grand Arch and Triumphal Arch, we can create a new waterfront access that can showcase the history of the land in Nagoya City. So this can be Nakagawa Canal Town. And this access can be the center of the canal town. That is all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Hayashi. Next, Vice Mayor of Nagoya City, Mr. Horiba, please. Yes, thank you very much. I am Horiba, and thank you very much for inviting me to this JAPIC symposium. And so I am here to pose an issue here. So I would like to focus on the Nakagawa Canal as I present. So this is the agenda. I have 3 topics. The first one, after the new Central Shinkansen line is created, we want to create a super mega region around the Nagoya station. And secondly, because the city and the canal will be connected, we want to create the Sasashima Live 24 district, which is an international welcome and exchange hub. And also towards connecting with history and creating the future, I would like to look at the Nakagawa Canal. First of all, around the Nagoya station. Right now, Tokyo, which is Japan's capital, and Nagoya will be connected with the new linear Chuo Shinkansen line. 1 hour and 40 minutes it takes right now between Tokyo and Nagoya, but with the new Shinkansen line, this will be shortened to just 1 hour. Tokyo, Osaka, once that district is open, then Osaka, Nagoya, and Tokyo will be connected within close to 1 hour and will create a great zone of 70 million population. And Nagoya will be in the center of this super mega region. And I believe that we could be the transport hub that will drive the growth of Nagoya. Now, the station plaza and its redevelopment. In front of Nagoya station, we don't have a lot of attractions as a major hub. And when we redevelop it, we want to make it an international destination. We want to make sure that we have infrastructures that is suitable to make Nagoya a super terminal station. We want to make it a place that people will feel that this is Nagoya, that everybody can utilize it. It could be a terminal station where people switch lines, and we want to make sure that we can link this with the Nagoya Canal. Next, the Sasashima Live 24 district. The Sasashima district in 2017, October, it was opened newly. The Sasashima district has the land, vacant land, which used to be the freight depot of the former National Railway. and it was a hub for logistics in the past. In 1986, the freight depot was, the service was discontinued, and many other infrastructures, many other facilities were created here. And it became a place that connects the port with the city. Now, I would like to focus on the Nakagawa Canal. First of all, about the characteristics and how it started. Nakagawa Canal connects the Nagoya port with the Sasashima Live 24 district. It has a length of 8.2 kilometers. And about 90 years ago, it was excavated and developed. It became the #1 Grand Canal in the Orient. The canal and the land along the shore is a public land owned by the Nagoya City. And the Nagoya Port Authority is handling the canal area. And it has a lock gate. It's a closed water area, and therefore the water level is always stable. Now, the history of the Nakagawa Canal. It connects the Nagoya port and the central part of the city. It was used for logistics, and it has supported the economic and industrial development of Nagoya. In the southwestern part of the city is actually lower than the average sea level, and therefore, after excavation of the canal, the land has been mounded, and some factories were invited into this district. 6 years after development started, in 1932, the canal was in full use, and along the shore, warehouses and also loading and unloading docks were created, as well as factories. So the canal was utilized along with the shore facilities. A little bit more about the logistics and transport along the canal. In 1964, 57 years ago, that was the peak of the canal use for transport. 1964, that is the year when 75,000 vessels traveled along the canal, carrying nearly 4 million tons of freight. But then after that, freight transport switched from vessels to trucks, and therefore right now, the amount of freight that is carried along the canal is just 1% of the peak era. Now, the transport function has become smaller, but along the waterway, people are trying to seek new values, new function in redeveloping the Nagoya Canal. And that's when Nagoya Canal revitalization plan started. So the concept is to connect with history and create a canal that makes the future along this waterway, creating new values and new functions so that recreation and relaxation as well as prosperity could be brought by the canal. And this plan came up in 2012. The Nakagawa Canal stretches over an 8.2-kilometer area north to south, and it will be divided into 3 different zones. And also for the revitalization, exchange and creation, environment, industry, and disaster prevention will be the 4 pillars. Now, I would like to explain what is being done right now. First of all, the busy and bustling facilities. Of course, the canal, around the area around the canal has special building codes, and therefore the land use was limited. But in the past, however, now we have guidelines for new use of the land, and special exceptions are being made so that commercial facilities and other facilities could be built. Vermicular Village, this is a shopping mall that has been created, and also the coffee parlor was also established along the shores, and now we have new flow of people coming in. Now the greenery and the promenade area. We want people to be able to connect with nature, with water, and with living creatures in the area. So we also have this green area, and also the Hiromi leisure area, which could be enjoyed by many people. Next, about the waterborne traffic. For the revitalization of the canal and also to make it a bustling place, Cruise Nagoya started operation in 2017. Sasashima Life area and the international exposition facilities are connected through this, and you can observe the living creatures along the waterway, and also you can enjoy the Showa era buildings along the canal. Next is about human exchange, people exchange, and creation activities. From Rinnai, we were able to get donation, so we utilized that for supporting art activities. So along the canal, many people can exhibit their artwork along the waterway, and art is now taking root in this area. The left-hand photograph is the Nakagawa Unga Canal art. This is a projection mapping done on the warehouse buildings. And this was the first step in carrying out these art activities. Also, maintaining and utilization of historical assets. The Matsushige Lock Gate was created in the past, and right now it is now a city cultural treasure. It is now not being used, but there are considerations being made to try to reuse it or to revitalize it. And we are also trying to improve the water environment. The Nakagawa Canal is a closed water. In the past, the water quality was not good, but in 1937, right close to the lock gate, the Matsushige pump gate was created so that seawater could be taken in from Nagoya port. And right now, every day, 130,000 tons of water will be circulated in a day. And also, the Tsuhashi of Water Processing Center will be releasing 30,000 tons of water per day so that the water in the canal can be improved. And nowadays, the dirty water in the past is becoming cleaner. And this is actually creating attachment and affection as well as pride for the canal. And now the canal could be utilized for lifelong learning as well as school education. Also, citizens as well as private companies are carrying out events and other activities along the waterway. To change the subject a little bit about industry and also disaster prevention. We want to create a monozukuri or manufacturing site here, and also we want to have students understand and also communicate about the attractions of manufacturing. And also when large amounts of water runs into the canal after a typhoon or heavy rain, the pump will be used to drain the water into the Nagoya port. So briefly, I have explained about what is being done along the canal right now. Now, lastly, what are the issues going ahead? Bringing many facilities along the shores, and also we are trying to establish the promenade. But right now, the many facilities are not really connected, and people are not really led into walking along the waterway. Art activities are also scattered and not really connected, and they are not continued. And also the Tsuhashi water treatment center is being used for the water quality improvement, but still, compared to the environmental standard points, it is not clearing the standards that are necessary. Also, the water transport, still, it is not really known, and we have to think about profitability. There is no mechanism for the maintenance and utilization of the historical assets yet. And also, we have not been able to invite many industries along the waterway. And in terms of disaster management, we have to deal with the rapidly changing climate. Of course, we alone as the city cannot resolve these problems. We need to have the input from citizens' organizations as well as the private sector, and we want to make sure that we collaborate together so that we can revitalize the Nakagawa Canal. With that, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you very much.
堀場副市長様、どうもありがとうございました。ここで、パネルディスカッションの説明ございますので、一旦休憩を取らせていただきます。16時40分から再開いたしますので、それまでにお戻りください。よろしくお願いいたします。パネリストの皆様、準備はよろしい。
Can we ask if the panelists are all ready? People in Aichi University, are you ready now?
Yes,
we are ready. Well, then thank you very much for waiting. We would now like to start the panel discussion. I would like to introduce all of the panelists. The first panelist is Mr. Hiroshi Matsuda from JAPIC. He is also a member of the national JAPIC. From Tokyo City University, we have Professor Hidetoshi Kawaguchi. And he is also a member of JAPIC. Next, from Nagoya, we have from Rinnai Corporation, Managing Director and Executive Officer, Mr. Takuya Ogawa. And from Nagoya City, we have Mr. Satoshi Tojo. He is the Director of the Housing and Urban Development of the city. Next, from Towa Kensetsu, we have Mr. Takahide Maruyama. He's from, and finally, from Chuba University, we have Professor Naoki Matsuo. Thank you very much. And Professor Matsuo will be a commentator and will join us in the discussion. And from here on, I'd like to ask Mr. Takaya Fujimoto, the chairman of JAPIC, to coordinate this session. So, Mr. Fujimoto, please. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to ask for the cooperation of the panelists. For the opening discussion, we had a discussion from both sides of the earth, but we would like to focus on the Tokyo to Nagoya area, which will be connected by the new Chuo Shinkansen line. Mr. Maruyama, or rather Mr. Marukawa, has spoken from JAPIC, but at Tokyo City University, the president has helped us through consultation about the revitalization of the Nakagawa Canal, and we have had many discussions. And we have been studying so that we can make a specific and concrete proposal. The thinking behind it, we have heard from Professor Hayashi when he presented the issues. And also from Vice Mayor Horiba, we have heard about the concept of super terminal Nagoya and creating Nagoya, which can welcome and also which can be a destination for many visitors. And here in this discussion, based on what we've heard from the two presenters, we would like to look back at the proposal that we are trying to create. And first of all, look at the future of the Nagoya Canal, Nakagawa Canal District. What are the issues? What are the challenges that we have? That is the first point of discussion. And secondly, in order to realize such a future, of course, we need to accelerate our activities. Then what is it that we need to focus on? What is it that we need to think about? So then, from JAPIC, what is the proposal that we can make? The team working on the Nakagawa Canal, we would like to have Mr. Matsuda present first.
Hello, this is Matsuda, and I'd like to give a presentation. First of all, this slide. This first slide is from the previous recommendation from JAPIC. This is the waterfront area that we want to create through the revitalization project of Nakagawa Canal. And this time, once again, we reviewed the proposal. And so I would like to make a presentation on the draft of our proposal. To give you the overview, as you can see at the top, close to Nagoya Station, we have the canal, and we have the calm water plane, very wide water plane in canal, but it is not utilized fully. In 2017, when we made the recommendation, we said that we wanted to create a graceful landscape and calm waterfront area. That was the proposal, but the project did not lead to concrete actions. And this year, in 2021, JAPIC is making another proposal. Compared to 2017, the society and the values are changing due to the pandemic and also digitization, as well as the decarbonization, accelerated decarbonization. So the society is changing rapidly. We have to grasp the needs of the society, and we need to create projects and businesses with a sense of speed so that we can propose the revitalization vision anew. And we will be getting feedback from many people to finalize our proposal. So we have the current situation of the Nakagawa Canal, the challenges, and also the revitalization project related issues are also shown. And today I'd like to talk about number 4 through 6. So the current situation and the challenges, as you've already heard, Nagoya Station and large urban zone is right close to the Nakagawa Canal. However, people are not very familiar with the Nakagawa Canal. So Nakagawa Canal itself is connected to the warehousing district. So we have a vast water plane, but it is not connected to the coastal area. So as you can see at the bottom, we want to have a bustling facility, and some of the areas are utilized that way, but that has not led to a greater trend. That is the challenge. So against these backdrops, looking at the surrounding areas, what is happening? Nakagawa Canal and the surrounding area have many different locations, attractive locations, such as Sasashima Live and Matsushige Lock Gate and Nagoya Garden Pier, Legoland, Canal Resort, Minato, Akrus. But they are scattered around and they are not integrated for people to enjoy. And the transportation mode that can bring people closer to the canal will be required. And also the water quality is not very good because of the closed water area. And as for disaster risk reduction, the Nagoya city is working on that. And so the development is ongoing to cater to this need. But the largest possible tsunami that we are expecting may occur. In that case, flooding will occur. So the development is required. That is another challenge. These are the challenges that we are facing, but we have to think about what will be the optimal revitalization plan. In Toyama City, there is a canal called Ugan Canal. People did not come very close to this canal, but the canal was redeveloped and the Starbucks was established here. It was said that this is the most beautiful Starbucks in the world. And as a result, a lot of residents in the neighborhood started to come to this area. So the canal was revitalized. Now I'd like to move on to the proposal on the revitalization project. A few years back, there was a Nakagawa Canal revitalization plan created by Nagoya City and Nagoya Port Union, and that is the basis of our proposal. And as you heard earlier, there are many social trends and social challenges that Japan is facing, such as aging of the society and overcrowdedness and concentration of population in Tokyo and work style reform. And global issues, including the greenhouse gas and climate change and increasing number of disasters. And also COVID-19 has led to new consciousness and awareness, such as the optimal distribution and avoiding crowdedness. Non-contact method, online, teleworking, these are the new normal. So they have to be incorporated and reflected in the new revitalization vision proposal. New trends such as SDGs and carbon neutral have to be reflected in new lifestyle such as living, residing, working, and leisure and tourism. All these things have to be incorporated in our proposal. The second perspective is that when we think about revitalization, there are important key points. First, Nagoya Station itself will have the linear maglev bullet train, and that's a hub. And also it is connected to Hida and other natural landscape. So Nakagawa Canal is adjacent to this area, but how can we utilize this area? How can we utilize the area along the canal, and what can we do about the transportation? And at the downstream, there is a attractive port and harbor area, and a pier as well. So just like Champs-Élysées in France, Paris, we have a straight canal that is connecting Nagoya Station and the harbor area. So we need to create this vertical access using Nakagawa Canal. That is one perspective of our proposal. We will need to propose the revitalization proposal reflecting new trends, and we must form a new access from Nagoya Station to Nagoya Port. And so green recovery and post-COVID-19 era, new generation and new value creation must be communicated from this area. That is our idea. and green infrastructure will have to be put in place using the waterfront area to achieve that. And also, renovation will have to take place that will lead to diverse value creation using the existing infrastructure and facility. And thirdly, we will have to create the bustling atmosphere using a diverse mobility network using the new access from Nagoya City Station to Nagoya Port. Based on these ideas, we have three proposals. First, Nakagawa Canal that is connected to the city center of Nagoya will bring a bustling and graceful atmosphere through the waterfront space. First proposal is corridor space of water and green. The waterfront area should be enjoyed by people. And the second is the living, working, and leisure environment that has the fusion of the history and new life. And the third is the mobility network using canal. Based on these ideas, we are formulating our proposal. So the first proposal is the aqua green belt. This is the illustration of Horidome area. So the waterfront and green should be integrated to create an environment so that people can rest in this area. And people should be able to go around this Nakagawa Canal where people can enjoy the green. So this kind of water side area needs to be created with abundant green. Second is the lifestyle renovation, where history and new items are integrated. The new value can be brought about to the warehouse district, and culture and art aspects can be incorporated to improve the value. And also, in the waterfront area, culture and art can be cultivated. That is the idea behind this proposal. And the third proposal, the recreational area is located on the downstream of the Nakagawa Canal. So renovation can take place there so that open space can be put in place. For example, the living space on the left and the working places on the right. So these environments should be located in fusion so that we can propose new lifestyle, and then we believe we can provide a peace of mind to people. But even if we put in place the infrastructure, if people do not come near the Nakagawa Canal, it does not make sense. So access is very important. Access needs to be created from Nagoya Station to Sasashima Live District. We need to enhance convenience. And the left to right access, the Aonami line and subway access needs to be enhanced. And also, both vertical and horizontal access needs to have better transportation using waterborne transportation. And at different hubs, various mobilities need to be connected. For example, super small mobility can provide transportation assistance, and autonomous driving vehicles such as green slow mobility can be provided. And then a lot of people can utilize this area effectively. So these are formulated and incorporated into our proposal. In order to put this into concrete action, we need to have a sense of speed, and we must think about what kind of backup and support is required. First, what we need is to communicate and promote the attractiveness of Nakagawa Canal. And then based on that, we want to attract many entities. We need to utilize private power, including the City Development Association. And first, the organizations can be created by public sector, but then they can be operated by private sector. And we can also utilize PPP and PFI. Also, we must enhance the attractiveness of the waterfront area through development by improving water quality and increasing the green area. We can also increase the mobility and utilize the existing facility to support the culture and art activities. Another point is to develop these businesses, we need to have a support to accelerate the business project. For example, the administration can give some incentive measures. And also, we need to improve the spatial value and attractiveness of the city. That will be very important. And by promoting that, green belt and decarbonization related businesses should be incentivized. And they need to be consistent. These support measures need to be consistent. And as a result, if we can do that, we believe that integrated city development is enabled. And also, tax incentive should be provided, such as the tide walls and other infrastructure. If they are put in place, then incentives should be provided. And multi-generation, multi-value interactive space should be created. If resident for multi-generation is created, then subsidy should be extended, and galleries for young artists should be put in place. And for that, the support should be provided. As a result, we can improve resilience. About 130 to 150 meter area can be used by private sector. With this kind of operation, the added value will be created, and then the value can be utilized in developing and revitalizing the area further. So in the end, in the future, we want to form a smart canal town in the area around Nakagawa Canal. We want to think about carbon neutrality and roll out smart mobility and offer new lifestyle. This is the organization. Hideo Nakamura is the top advisor, and Fujimoto-san is the head of the committee. This is just the draft version, so we would like to hear many people's feedbacks so that we can brush up and finalize the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So JAPIC is in the midst of compiling the revitalization plan, and we have heard about where the plan is right now. Now we would like to hear from all the other panelists. We would like to divide the panelists into two groups. First of all, about the shoreline development and your opinion on the JAPIC draft, and about what you think about the future of the development plan. In the second round, how do you accelerate these activities? That is what I'd like to ask you in the second round. So what do you think about the plan itself and about the future? I'd like to ask Professor Hidetoshi Kawaguchi from Tokyo City University to speak. Thank you very much. So my field of expertise is city design. So from that perspective, I would like to mention some things that may serve as a hint for the plan compilation. And since time is limited, I would like to rush through my presentation based on these 4 points. The first point is looking at the waterfront, the water side. This is from Amsterdam, from the Amsterdam Central Station. 2 kilometers east from there, there is the warehouse facility, which is now unused. And Amsterdam City has created living facilities there. This is housing development. Usually, to make these things profitable, you need to make high-rise buildings or you need to bring in commercial facilities. But it was focused on housing for families. So this was a tough project. So 100 houses in about 10,000 square meters. Altogether, 2,150 houses were made, which had 100 hectares or more. Excuse me, which has a very spacious area. And the Amsterdam City and the developer and also designers, architectural companies got together and a model house was created. And experimentally, the houses were sold, but most important was, especially if you are developing along the water, how do you look at the water surface or the water level? And Sporenburg and Borno, many construction offices went in to work along the waterway in developing houses. It's like a townhouse. 30 or so offices got together, followed a strict rule in building these new facilities. It was a very interesting way to develop houses along the waterway. And the water surface, as well as the private space, how do you draw the line between the two? And how do you connect between the two? People who live here will look at the water as their garden. Yes, this is in the Netherlands, so maybe that is behind the mindset of the people, but they look at the water as their garden. And Professor Hayashi talked about this as well, but this is in Hamburg, the Hafen city. When I went there, it was during the very cold season, but I went on tours within the city and I heard from many people. But the first thing that you hear is that Hafen City is not just designing a city, it's not just urban development, this is society development. In the Western countries, unlike Japan, when you start something, you have to focus on jobs and employment. And that was at the center. And as Professor Hayashi said, education, housing, jobs, and culture, they all have to come into the planning. And I believe that should be a major focus. And also in the urban design, every year, several times, you have to understand that when during the high tide season, the area might be inundated. People here said it's not a problem. Inside a cafe, you look outside and you might see some fishes swimming around and they say it's okay. But actually there are these sea gates or tide gates. Using German steel for shielding the tides. So you have to create areas that can be inundated and areas that can't be inundated. You have to divide between the two. We have closeness with the water, but we are also afraid of the water, and therefore we need to have technology, we need to have laws that regulate these things. And also the relationship between the public and private lands. This was also very interesting. The right-hand top, you have the borders and you have the buildings. And outside these areas, you have the promenade area alongside the port, and some housing facilities, offices are cantilevered, and you can walk along under these areas. So even on a rainy day, it's like walking along a road with a roof. So Hafen City is created in a way that is easily accessible by foot. The left-hand photographs, this is a little bit west from Hafen City. This is the old city. And this is an embankment that stretches over this area. It was still under construction when I went there. It has been completed now, and there are many stands where people can sit down and look upon the water. And I don't think I need to say this, but Osaka, Tokyo, the terrace spaces, and in Tokyo, you have the Sumida River, the river terrace area, using the private sector capabilities to build these facilities to create a floor space along and above the river. And what is good about this? Of course, this is utilizing the ideas of the private sector. And of course, Tokyo has certified this, but the embankment cannot be seen from where you are because of these constructions. And this is very interesting. The Kawa Terrace, or the river terrace, if you stand there, it makes you feel as if you are floating on the river water. So technique-wise, you might want to introduce these things along the Nakagawa Canal. And within JAPIC, we have looked at the outer moat around the former Edo castle, and to create an area where people can come close to the water. And starting from there, Kanda River and the Nihonbashi River and Sumida River was made into a loop so that you can circulate around this area on boat. And also walking is very important. So maybe walking, cycling along the water. Of course, these things cannot be created overnight. And this will be important for the Nakagawa Canal area. The Nakagawa Canal, the good thing about this area is the water level only changes maybe 20 centimeters or 30 centimeters. It's relatively stable. But of course, in the Tokyo area, this example, this is an actual river. Therefore, the water level may change 1 meter, 2 meter. So even if you ride on a cruise boat, the rivers that run through cities, actually the society is not facing them because people faces the roads, so they have their backs against the river. But now how do you make people face the rivers? I believe that is what is going to be necessary when you think about the revitalization of the canal, Nakagawa Canal waterfront area. Thank you very much. That is all from myself.
Thank you very much, and I apologize we can only allocate short time to each of you, but we have many cases from overseas, but in Japan we have also different cases, including Sumida River, and we can learn from these cases. Next, we have Kawaguchi-san from Rinnai Corporation. As Vice Mayor said, Rinnai has been engaging in the local area. So based on the experiences, we'd like to hear your view on the draft proposal and your other views on this as well. Hello, my name is Ogawa from Rinnai Corporation. Since I have this valuable opportunity, I would like to talk about what Rinnai is doing in relation to Nakagawa Canal. In 1920, Rinnai Corporation was established. So last year we celebrated the 100th anniversary, and it was established right next to Horidome. So that's where the company was established. And Nakagawa Canal construction just started then. And because of that, we needed to relocate our office. And then we moved to a close by location. And currently our headquarters has been located since then, has been located in the same area since then. So we have been operating business in a similar location, and for the last 90 years or so, we have accumulated our history together with Nakagawa Canal. We heard a lot about history of Nakagawa Canal, and water transport was very busy, but then water transport has been declining since then. And against these backdrops, our company has been operating. And earlier, Nagoya City talked about the revitalization plan, which was announced in 2012. And we also agreed on this plan to support the bustling area. We are supporting artists. And in that way, we have been participating in this plan for the last 10 years or so. So we are agreeing with the revitalization plan. And as a local company, we had expectations. There were some hurdles in relation to water. There is a water quality issue, and many effort has been made to address that. But the local employees, our employees, are walking around this area, and they have noticed the issue of odor and smell. The issue was very severe before. The Tsuyohashi Water Treatment Center and a water pump started operation, and since then the issue was mitigated. However, those people who went on the Nagoya cruise, you probably have noticed that the water quality is still suboptimal. And also the landscape. Today we heard about cases of waterfront development overseas. I've never been to these places, but I wish I could rest and enjoy the waterfront area. And that's what I felt when I heard these cases. But Nakagawa Canal is still not there yet, and I hope that Nakagawa Canal will become one of them. So that is the motivation behind the support for the revitalization plan. And last 10 years, regrettably, the landscape and environment has not changed significantly, so we have high expectation going forward. And looking at the proposal draft from JAPIC, I thought that we can expect highly that the landscape and hardware, the buildings will change significantly. And you also talked about the grace and the liveliness. I think these are two good words to engage ourselves in branding activities. An area which will be graceful, where people will come together, and disaster risk reduction and mobility were also talked about. In this bustling area, we hope that people will come to this area and that people will find this area attractive. So I have very high hopes for that proposal. Since the time is limited, I'd like to close my remark. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So the water quality issue, if the rivers are flowing, water quality improves, but for this canal, it has improved, but not that much. So I believe we had to focus on that. And yes, we also want to make sure that we have a refined style when we develop this area. Now, Vice Mayor Horiba has talked about certain aspects, but now I'd like to ask Mr. Tojo, or Professor Tojo, Mr. Tojo from Nagoya City, to talk about certain aspects of the development. Well, thank you very much. I'm Tojo, Director of Housing and Urban Development from Nagoya City, and thank you very much for JAPIC and professors for telling us about the different examples overseas. The waterfront function in the city, I believe this is very important. The Nakagawa waterway, the Nakagawa Canal, was used for logistics, and it supported the industry in Nagoya after World War II. However, the function has declined over time. But now we want to change it and revitalize it so that it has becomes an attractive place within the city. And as we've heard from Professor Hayashi about the example in London, there are many other examples, but Nagoya was an economic city or industrial city, but now we want to change it into a more attractive attractive city with a lot of amenities. And we believe that the revitalization of the Nakagawa Canal could be the symbol of that. In 2012, the Nagoya City and also the council has come up with the plan. Vermicular Village and the Kohi Gannen Cafe and other commercial facilities have been built along the canal since then. And as Mr. Ogawa has said, his company has sponsored many different events. And also water leisures activities have been developed bit by bit. And as for the city, following JAPIC's proposals toward the next 10 years, we want to make sure that we can accelerate our activities and start up projects. And at this international forum, I believe that this could be a trigger point to accelerate the next step. And the role of the local government is, of course, no movement will start where there is nothing. Therefore, we need to set the stage and we need to trigger these activities. I believe that is the role that we need to play. And as a trigger, in this round, I would like to mention 3 points. One is what we need to do as a city to make sure that the shore and also the environment will allow people access to the water. Secondly, the utilization of the water surface to open it for more use. And thirdly, to strengthen the waterborne transportation network. So the first one, the canal right now is not open, it's not accessible for citizens. So first of all, we need to create an environment to allow access. And the area where that should be bustling with business, we understand that in 3 years' time, this will be established. And a promenade could be created, and we will lead the way to make this happen, and we believe that that is most important. And also to make sure that people can enjoy this area, the warehouses along the way should be renovated for new use, and that is another thing that the city needs to do. The second point is the utilization of the waters itself, the water surface. When you think about city planning, it has changed greatly. It's not just the water surface, but roads, parks, and others. In recent times, they are being utilized to bring and attract people. Roads or streets are turned into open cafes. In the past, roads were roads, they were for traffic, and they were used for different purposes only as exceptions, but now they are changing so that people can utilize the streets in many different ways. So the rule and the exception are now being changed, and this leads to deregulation for the administration side. And through this, we are hoping that we can bring in more people to take part in the renovation and revitalization activities. And the basis of this, of course, has to be improvement of water quality. And of course, you need to have toilet and shower facilities if you want people to enjoy activities on the water. And thirdly, the water traffic network. As the Vice Mayor said, toward 2027, Nagoya Station will be become the terminal for the new Shinkansen bullet train line, and Nagoya City will be the terminal station of that new Shinkansen. So people will come to Nagoya, they'll stay in Nagoya. So we want to utilize the impact of opening this new Shinkansen line. And one reason for staying in Nagoya could be this canal and the water transportation from Sasashima Live to Kinjo and to other entertainment facilities along the way. We are working together with Cruise Nagoya, and we want to strengthen these efforts. And the Matsushige Lock Gate is one, to connect Horikawa with Nakagawa Canal to make the waterway more accessible to people. And the renovation of the warehousing facilities, JAPIC has made many proposals, including business schemes, and comments on that, as well as establishing the environment for more private sector participation. How do we make sure that the efforts will continue? I believe that is a comment I will make in the next round. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The coastal area or riverside and water surface and water environment. From these perspectives, we heard the comment. Thank you. Next, Maruyama-san. You have been working in Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism, and you've been engaged in the port and harbor construction. You have also been involved in projects in Nagoya, so can you tell us your view? Yes, my name is Maruyama from Towa Kensetsu. As Fujimoto-san said, The reason why I was invited today is because I was in Minato Research Institute until February this year, and I was engaged in study on the liveliness and the waterfront area of Nagoya. So what I have been doing is aligned to what JAPIC has been doing. So I want to talk about the situation and what I have been doing. So on a side note, the Minato Research Institute was working with Isewan Forum, but Towa Kensetsu, the construction company, was also involved. So I just want to say that our company is involved in this effort as well. If you could look at the first page, as introduced, I have worked in Ministry of Transport and Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism. I was posted in Nagoya for 3.5 years, and I learned a lot from that experience. And as you can see in the center of this slide, what is pertinent to today's discussion is that I was involved in the starting up of Aonami Line. Aonami Line is related to port construction project, so I was involved in that, and Kincho Pier redevelopment project, as well as Nakagawa Canal water quality purification. I was in charge of budgeting of these projects. And Minato Research Institute, from that perspective, I want to give you an overall picture. This organization, I believe back in 1987, and back then the environment was declining along the canal, and redevelopment was gaining attention, and Minato Research Institute started working on the redevelopment of the waterfront area. So, however, the situation has changed since then, but they have gone back to the starting point, and they are focusing on the new way of town building along the waterway. And Shinohara-san, the Professor Emeritus of University of Tokyo, is the head of the research and study group on that town building. I will not go into detail, but I will just give you the gist of the reasons why we have to focus once again on the new type of town building along the waterway. There are 3 reasons. One is regional revitalization. The heads of municipalities are struggling with the declining population and how to secure residents and tourists and visitors in the town. To increase the number of people, they need an environment put in place, and the port and harbor can contribute to making that happen. And second is that many places are looking at ports as the entrance into a region. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the projects are halted in many places, but a lot of places are looking at ports as the gateway and entrance to the region. And thirdly, there are existing stock and resources as the regional resource, and many people are now thinking about utilizing these resources to the greatest extent. So here on the right, you can see a map of the large area from the pier along Nakagawa Canal, and Professor Mizuo from a major university is the head of the study group. And there are 3 points. We are focusing on the utilization of attractive regional resources. And second, to promote information and communication. And third is to create the proposal of framework of collaboration. So the first point is about utilization of attractive regional resources. On this point, there are 3 points that were observed by the study group. First is to promote the industry, commerce, and lively facilities. Various measures should be taken to achieve that. And the second is the town building that will allow people to enjoy waterfront area. Various measures should also be taken on this point. And the third is to make the waterway more approachable. Accessibility needs to be improved, such as putting in place promenade along the canal, etc. And out of these 3 points, the third is to create a framework of collaboration. At the bottom, you can see the case of utilization of Port Oasis at Port O. There are about 150 ports that are trying to utilize the port terminals to communicate information to the people. Various ports are trying to do the similar things. 150 such ports nationwide are making effort. And these ports are collaborating with town building or city building association. And this is the successful case that we can emulate. And the perspective necessary to improve the attractiveness, there are 3. One is that the effort should be spearheaded by the regional, local residents and citizens and companies, and the administration should support that effort. And second is that on each of these projects, targets need to be clarified. And third, in the area in scope, the consistency and the oneness, solidarity is important. So these are the things that we are working on in Minato Research Institute. And what we are doing is quite similar to what JAPIC is doing. So we hope that we will work together going forward. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maruyama, and we hope to have your cooperation going forward. Finally, I would like to ask Professor Matsuo for a comment after listening to all the presentations and discussions. So may we ask you, Professor Matsuo.
Thank you very much for your comments. First, Professor Hayashi talked about advanced and pioneering cases of other countries. And Nakagawa Canal is trying to provide living, working, leisure. And all of these have to be combined in development effort. And that's exactly what we saw in these cases. In Nakagawa Canal, we need to provide 4 different functions, such as culture, art, living, business, and leisure. JAPIC has the same vision. And to achieve that, we need the mechanism and devices to provide these functions. Now, Vice Mayor Horiba also talked about the Nakagawa Canal Revitalization Plan. When the plan was formulated, there was a committee to study and create the plan, and I was the head of the committee. And Nagoya Port and Nagoya City Nagoya Station are connected by the canal. So we studied various different aspects of this region, and as a result of the study, the Sasashima Live and the surrounding area should be created as a lively area, and also a recreational area should be created. And in between, we should have the industrial zone. That was the idea behind the revitalization plan. We wanted to implement the plan as such. And in the middle, as I said, the industrial zone should be put in place. But we did not have sufficient discussion on how the industrial zone should be. But today we heard from all of you on many suggestions. And also based on the presentations and discussions earlier today, I thought that when we were drafting the plan, the historic land use of this area was referred to in making the industrial zone. But this industrial zone, as JAPIC suggested earlier, should be connected to the residential area along the canal, and art, science, and technology should also be combined. The industrial creation zone, a new industrial creation zone along the canal, should have all of these different aspects in fusion. The living and working spaces should be located adjacent to each other. That's what I thought, listening to all of you. So Nagoya Station, Nagoya Port are connected by Nakagawa Canal. Nakagawa Canal can be a water and green pathway or access. As such, the Nakagawa Canal Revitalization Plan can be created. The green water pathway, as we heard, water quality improvement and the coastal area, including revetment work, will be required. As for the improvement of water quality, 130,000 tons of water is going to Horikawa. The water is circulated that way. And 130,000 tons, currently we have the plan to increase that to 180,000 tons. When the amount is increased that way, then we believe that the water quality will be improved further. And by increasing the amount of water further and further, we can circulate the water more. And as a result, we believe that the internal production that is the reason of the degradation of water quality of Nakagawa Canal can be prevented. And also, we can create an attractive Nakagawa Canal space by addressing the sludge issue as well. And we can close the first round of discussion here.
Well, thank you very much for talking about the development of the canal. And as for the program, we were supposed to end by 45 past the hour, and yes, we have started a little bit late. So if we can extend the time until the top of the hour, I'm very sorry to the audience, but please allow the extension of our time. So for the second round, what should be done in order to accelerate the movements? We'd like to ask each person to take just a couple of minutes to make very short, brief comments, starting with Mr. Kawaguchi. Once again, I would like to utilize my slides to make some comments. And this is about Hafen, but the information center and guide tours are really popular, and this is a part of PR activities. You have to have that, and also with the citizens, to create this atmosphere. Don't have workshops in some sort of office. Go to the site along the canal so that you can discuss and gain input from citizens. Even before actual constructions start. If that happens, this would be really great. Of course, this will be hard, but this should be done. And you also need to have a designated public relations officer who can provide updated information on a daily basis. I believe that effort also needs to be made. And we have heard from many people, and it is included in the proposal from JAPIC, but you need to mix many different things. Housing for the residents, and also you need to have different generations of residents. In the case of Hafen, you have scattered houses, but along the in the area, and that is good because if you just have a commercial district, it will be dark after 10 in the evening. But if you have people living within these areas, there will always be light in the area. So if you have zones where you can't build houses, you won't have that atmosphere. Therefore, deregulation is necessary so that you can have houses scattered around in the district. Right now, in Japan, the regulation may not allow this to happen, but this is one thing you need to think about. Also, utilizing the existing stock. This is an example in France. There was a biscuit factory. The factory was bought by the city, and this became the bistro in the city. Students can use it, and it was a factory owned by a biscuit company, but this was renovated and changed into a different space. But in this case, in Japan, because of the building codes, we may not be able to do the same, but we may want to change the law a bit, tweak it so that it can buildings can be utilized in many different ways. And I believe many citizens may want to utilize this. And this is not even on Google Map, but this is from Amsterdam, or rather 1 kilometer away from Amsterdam along the canal. But you might be surprised, but the houses are actually floating on the water. People who were interested in the environment and also on sustainability started this. It's called the Skåne HIP, which means clean ships, for a more sustainable energy use. So I believe many ideas like this one would come up along the way. So we hope that you don't say that you need to apply first and get approval before you start the project. Introduce the idea of universal design so that you can approve the process so that many projects can move along very swiftly. And I believe that change is necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Professor Kawaguchi. It was about the public affairs and deregulation. Now, Ogawa-san from Rinnai, please. Yes, today I am learning a lot. So far, the revitalization plan was the basis of the action, and Canal Art, which is the host of today's forum, has been making effort. But in the last 10 years, what have we been able to do and what have we not been able to do? We should be able to see that analysis. Today, we heard about what was materialized by Nagoya City, and I also heard about ongoing projects. I have a lot of high hopes and expectation toward these projects. I learned a lot. Now, the lively zone that we are focusing on, in order for the space to be lively, I think that the building should be built first. For example, Tojo-san talked about promenade plan. I think that 3 years from now, in 2024, that will be completed. So I think that it's ongoing steadily. And as a result, I believe that we can see the movement of people, and then the artists and university stakeholders can also be successful in improving the liveliness through people-to-people interaction. I hope we will see we'll see further progress. And I was very inspired by the cases of Manhattan and Tokyo. So those case studies around the world were presented by many people today at today's forum, thanks to everyone's knowledge. So they should be gathered. And even after this forum is over, we should remember these case studies. And then I believe that all the projects will go smoothly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So looking at the past 10 years and then taking the next step forward. Now, Mr. Tojo, please. Well, as Mr. Ogawa has just said, to summarize, yes, it's been 10 years since the first plan was compiled. And yes, things have started to move. It was a big first step, but in the next 10 years, this is going to be very important. As I said earlier, the exceptions and also the rules, we need to flip these two, the relationship between these two, because in the past 10 years, basically, we have been looking at the port area, the logistics, and how to accept the exceptions. And that has created many of these spot development areas. But in the next 10 years, we need to change our thinking so that we can really utilize this area. So utilization should be the focus. So utilization of the land as well as the water itself. So changing the way we think will probably accelerate the movement, and that would be the first step to speed things up. And the warehouse, these are existing buildings, these are memories of the past, and also preserving these will be important. But these are buildings that were built in the faraway past. Sometimes they may not really comply with the current building codes. So then how do we utilize such buildings? Once again, we will have to look at the rules and the exceptions and change the way we think so that we can make it easier to utilize or have new uses for these buildings. The Machiya houses in Kyoto, the houses are being used even if they were built many years before in the past. And I believe that we can have more flexible ways of thinking. And lastly, the Nakagawa Canal area land, the warehousing area and the utilization. Right now, the land is owned by the city, and the Nagoya Port Authority is renting the area from the city. And of course, because it is owned by the city, fixed property tax do not apply here. The rental price is also different from market prices. There are many advantages, and therefore we can say that this creates a lot of potential for the land use. Maybe startup companies can come and utilize this area, or maybe it could be used for art activities, or maybe some interesting commercial facilities could be built. It could be utilized for art and culture. I believe we have conditions set for that. So utilizing these advantages, I'm hoping that utilization will be further be accelerated in the next 10 years to come. And lastly, making sure that this is sustainable. We need to have fans who will support these activities, who will commit in supporting the activities. And also we need to have some financial model to support these activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Tojo-san talked about making exceptions into rules. I hope that you will communicate to people that administration has changed as well, and then we will hear more opinions going forward. Now, Mariyama-san, please. From my side, I have 4 points. First, we all know that information transmission or communication is important, and the information that is communicated should be backed by proud. The region, your region and area should be a source of pride as you share that information. Not only Nakagawa Canal, but Nagoya Pier is a 5-minute walk from the subway station, and there is a bath where the cruisers can call at, and also about 2 million tourists come to Nagoya, which is the third. The Churaumi Aquarium in Okinawa is at the top, but Nagoya Aquarium is the third in Japan. So these are the assets we have, and we should be proud of them. The second, as Tojo-san said, we need to change the exceptions into our rules. I agree with that. And as for regulation of ports and harbors, more than 20 years ago, we have had a system where flexible operation is possible. So the system should be deregulated further. But what I want to say, it may sound contradictory, but we will need a well-modulated commitment as well. How to support the commitment by mechanism? There are different options. For example, we should allow access to the canal, and we should have the canal visible from the coastal area. And also the area should be consistent. And in case of a disaster, people along the canal should work together. Such commitment or promises should be set. And the third point is about the approachability. what I am focusing on this point is a waterborne transportation. The water-based transportation fare is not that high. From Asakusa to Haneda Airport in Tokyo, the Tokyo Bay has the water transport, and there are 60 per day, but every year only 200 to 300,000 people use that water transport. So that might just be a symbolic transport, but if we have that transportation mode, then it will make the canal a destination to visit for people. So that sort of visibility should be there. And Fujimoto-san told me I have to limit my talk to 3 minutes, so I will skip the fourth point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Finally, Professor Matsuo, please. Thank you very much for all the different opinions, and we would like to incorporate what we've heard in the final plan. And as Mr. Tojo has talked about Nagoya City being the trigger point, and also taking the lead and creating these movements is very important. And Professor Hayashi and Mr. Horiba has also talked about many different examples from abroad. These attractive places, by seeing these attractive places, it may change people's mind. So maybe even just one place along the canal, maybe we can have some development which will create the brand for Nakagawa Canal. Maybe that will change the citizens' perspective of the canal. And also, we need to have culture as well as housing incorporated together along the canal. So deregulation and regulation, the balance between the two is very important. Creating regulations, but also deregulating the rigid rules that we have right now, so that we can make this face for Nagoya, which is a brand for Nagoya. And then the Nakagawa Canal could be communicated to the outside world. Right now, under COVID-19, our life and also our city, our houses, we can live anywhere because we can be connected online. So in that sense also, maybe we can create a brand for the Nakagawa Canal so that we can spread the brand, and we can create something like Champs-Élysées along the canal in the end. Thank you.
In closing, Professor Matsuo, if you could summarize the discussion in 3-4 minutes, please. Yes. Nakagawa Canal Town with diverse values. In order to create that, as we all mentioned, first we need the water-based transportation and the various mobility network. And especially water-borne transportation needs to be reinforced, as Tojo-san said. The water-based transportation needs to be strengthened. From Nagoya Port to Nagoya Station, there is an access not only connecting all these different hubs, and not only the vertical transportation, we need the east to west transportation as well, crossing the canal. And in order to fulfill various functions, infrastructure needs to be put in place. And at the same time, the people with diverse values and organizations and entities and actors, we must promote collaboration and coordination among them. And to promote that, systems and mechanisms are created, such as the land use deregulation or special zone creation. In order to create Nakagawa Canal Town, we need to cultivate this feeling that we are one with the citizens. Such atmosphere and sentiment needs to be built. And finally, the revitalization plan of Nakagawa Canal has already been created, but we need the overall concept and vision. And based on that, we can gradually implement the plan. And we must also accelerate our progress. And at the same time, we have to visualize the progress. So wherever we can, we should take one step further, again, gradually, and then the local residents should be able to see the progress. That will be necessary in order to steadily progress with the plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very sorry that I poorly managed time and we had to extend the time. And I believe still we were able to hear only half of what was prepared. But in any case, the private sector, public sector, as well as the academia must get together to discuss, come up with a plan and move forward. I believe that is most important. And as for JAPIC, we will make sure that we play the role in promoting the activities. And finally, this is the proposal that we are making this time. This will be uploaded on our JAPIC webpage shortly. And if you can look at this, once again, if you have any ideas and input, we would like to appreciate any input that you may have. And with this, I'd like to close this panel discussion and hand over the microphone to the Secretariat. Thank you very much for that. With this, we would like to end the JAPIC Symposium. As Mr. Fujimoto said, this symposium would be the starting point where we ask you for your input and so that we can move forward smoothly with the compilation of our proposal. And the input that we get from the symposium will be reflected into our proposal, which will be compiled into our proposal within this fiscal year. With this, we'd like to end the JAPIC Symposium. The Nakagawa Canal Waterfront Area Revitalization Project will be concluded. Thank you very much for staying with us until the very end.
Thank you very much to all the members of JAPIC. The revitalization vision by JAPIC, I have high expectation toward that vision. Ladies and gentlemen, what did you think about today's program? And this concludes today's program. And tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we will have session 1, Art and Creativity. From 1:15, we have session 2, Urban Strategy, starting from Waterfront. And from 4 p.m., we will have session 3, Waterfront Management, supported by citizens and businesses. All the programs will be live streamed on Zoom and YouTube tomorrow, once again. And please take a look at our website on International Canal Forum for detail. Thank you very much.